look for drug education programs and you make sure your child is able to get into them. And how do you make sure that your child gets into them? You ensure that they are accurate and age appropriate. So you make sure the information that you get from the program that you're going to instigate your child is age appropriate information about the dangers of drug use. So don't just get your child into any program. These programs should focus on short-term and long-term consequences of drug abuse, emphasizing the impact on physical and mental health, academic performance, and relationships. You make sure any program that your child has access to, you know what is going to be talked about, whether it's beneficial to your child. Especially you find out that most of these programs are in the churches. Just don't allow just because it's a church program. Ensure that you're aware that the program provides accurate information and it's age appropriate for your child. Number 2 is open communication. So you encourage open and honest communication between you and your child about drugs. And you do this by creating a safe space where children can discuss their concerns and ask questions without fear of judgment or punishment. This can happen when the child is in school, or it can also happen at home when you're talking to your child or when your child is talking to his or her siblings. So you ensure there's that safe space. Number 3, there is peer support. And this mostly is the peer support is usually to encourage students to look out for one another. That is in a school setup, you encourage students to speak up if they notice a friend or a classmate engaging in risky behavior or struggling with a substance abuse. Because if they talk about it, it's going to be curbed early enough. There's also positive role models. This one works wonders because you find out that most children who are getting into this, it's because they can be able to see their elder relatives in drugs. And how do you ensure that they have positive role models? You provide students with positive role models and your child. So you provide them, and you yourself will become a good role model by demonstrating a healthy and a drug-free lifestyle. This can be achieved through guest speakers, mentorship programs, or involvement of successful individuals for the community. There's also community involvement, especially for your child or those students who are they go to a day school. So involve parents, you also involve the community members and local organizations in drug prevention efforts. Some of the organizations even go to the boarding schools, for example, NACADA. So the school can collaborate with these local organizations, or there can be collaboration between schools and the community, which can strengthen prevention programs and provide a wider support network for the students. There's also life skills training. So you teach students essential life skills such as decision making, stress management, and problem solving. And if it's your child, you can teach him or her these life skills of how to make a decision and how to manage stress and problem solving. Because if you don't teach them at that level, most of the schools, you find out that they don't go to individual students to teach this. It is there in the life skills class, but apparently, I don't know, some of the schools don't teach it. It's just there, or they teach a different thing. And remember, these skills can enhance their ability to cope with peer pressure in difficult situations without resorting to drugs. There's also policies and enforcement, especially if the child is in school. You establish clear and strict policies against drug use in schools, and you enforce these policies consistently, ensuring that the consequences for drug-related offenses are understood and followed. There's also early intervention programs, and these programs can be instilled in school or they can be done at home. This is to identify and to support students who may be at a higher risk for drug abuse. That is, you implement early intervention programs that provide counseling and support to address any underlying issues that may contribute to substance abuse. So, if you identify that your child has a lot of issues, and mostly I think these issues come from home, you can be able to early implement these intervention programs. You provide counseling for this child and you support the child. This enables the child not to be able to abuse drugs as a what? As a way to manage stress. There is also parental involvement. So the parent is encouraged to actively engage in their child's lives by, if you're the parent, you show a lot of interest in their activities. You also show a lot of interest in their friends and concerns. So if there is a strong parental involvement, it can act as a protective factor against drug use. There's also promoting healthy activities. These healthy activities offer a variety of extracurricular activities that promote healthy interests and hobbies. It provides an alternative outlet for stress relief and socializing. In these healthy activities, you can be able to involve your child in extracurricular activity like playing football or going for piano lessons. This is going to engage the child because they're going to use these sports as a what? As a way of, as an alternative outlet. Monitor access to drugs, keep medications and potentially harmful substances in secure locations. That is, here we're talking about at home and at school. This is to limit the access. And in school currently, you find out that most schools, that were near these areas whereby there were bars or at any area that they were selling these drugs, these places have already been closed down if they are near the school or around or in the neighboring environment towards the school. So at home, you can also ensure that the location of your home, especially if those people who are living in urban areas, you ensure that locations that you live in, they limit the access of drugs. You cannot live in a place whereby the child can easily access the next door, not even the next door, it's just the neighbor next door is the one who's selling the drugs. You know, that is very easy access. Or you find out that your homestead is near a market where there are 10 bars. That is not limiting access. You have to give up something so that your child cannot access these drugs. You have to maybe give up a luxury so that you can be able to parent in a secure location where your child cannot access these drugs or the access is limited. In schools, there should be continued evaluation and improvement. So you regularly assess the effectiveness of drug prevention programs and adjust strategies as needed. So you make sure you stay up to date with the current trends and research in order to refine prevention efforts. And this is very necessary because they are drugs. Like the other day, there's a new drug in the market which even looks like a chewing gum, which came up the other day. So make sure you know about more about these kind of drugs so that you can be able to prevent them. Student involvement involves students in the planning and implementation of drug prevention initiatives. So you engage students in decision-making process, which can increase their ownership and commitment to the cause. And there's also mental health support. So address mental health issues and provide access to counseling services. And to add to that, ensure that emotional well-being plays a crucial role in preventing the drug abuse. Some students, may turn to substances to cope with stress or emotional challenges. Some of the countries have crisis helplines. So display this information about helplines and support services within the school premises to make it easily accessed to students in times of need. I know one of the universities currently in Kenya which has these helplines or guidance, this counseling and information helplines that can help, that is USAU, and these helplines work very well because this is for free. Also ensure that there is positive reinforcement. So recognize and you celebrate positive behavior and achievement. So you reinforce the idea that making healthy choices and staying drug free are commendable and worthy of praise. So here you can do it by praising a student who is what? Who's making the healthy choices and it is impacting well in their life. If your child also is making the right choices, you can also reward them back at home. Use of technology. You leverage technology to disseminate drug prevention messages through social media, through also websites or educational apps, reaching students where they spend a significant amount of time. Or you can use some of these you can use technology, for example, the messages from media, you print them and you can also display them in schools. You can display them around where they mostly hang out, especially where they play their games. So if they're playing table tennis, you can display them around that area, or let's say around the DH. We find out that the current curriculum has well integrated drug prevention topics in various subjects such as biology and also CRE. For example, in biology, they are covering the effects of the drugs on the body, and you also find in social or basically in life skills, they are exploring historical drug use patterns, and in literature, they analyze the drug-related themes, especially in the set books, even in Swahili and Christian religious education. So make sure these topics are all well covered. There's also drug-free school events. So organize drug-free events, competitions, and activities that emphasize fun and enjoyment without the need for drugs or alcohol. Monitor and address bullying. Address bullying and harassment issues within the school environment, as this can contribute to drug use as a coping mechanism for victims. Schools should highly support at-risk students. So you identify at-risk students early on and provide them with additional support, including mentoring programs and tutoring to reduce their vulnerability to drug use. And it is very important to remember the collaboration with the law enforcement. So collaborate with local law enforcement agencies to educate students about legal consequences of drug use, and you provide a visible presence of authorities as a deterrent. Also, when you collaborate with these law enforcement, they can very well take out any at-risk environment um, establishments near the school, especially those which come up to sell drugs to students. So they very well come in and cap that. There's also long-term follow-up, so you continue drug prevention efforts throughout a student's academic journey. That is by reinforcing the message from primary school through high school to ensure that they stay away from drugs. Also, you make sure you address cultural factors. You recognize and address cultural factors that may influence drug use, tailoring prevention messages to resonate with different cultural backgrounds. Remember, there are those cultural backgrounds that don't limit the access of some of the drugs. Like, for example, the local brew, they bring, it is a must for the local brew to be in any occasions, and especially the male child is freely allowed to take it regardless of their age. So you address these cultural factors and how they can affect the student, but you have to remember that they should resonate with these different cultural backgrounds. A healthy school environment. So promote a healthy and supportive school environment that fosters a sense of belonging, inclusivity, and respect among students. There is also parent-teacher communication, which is highly enforced in most of the schools. So you encourage regular communication between parents and teachers to monitor students' behavior and address any concerns promptly. There's also school-wide assemblies and speakers. So you organize a school-wide assembly and you invite a guest speaker who have experienced and they experienced the consequences of drug abuse firsthand to share their stories and also create an impactful messages. This can also be practiced not even in school-wide. They can also be practiced where the students mostly are at home. Like, for example, in the churches, you can invite these speakers, so that they can talk about the experiences with the drug abuse firsthand, and also by sharing their stories to create these impactful messages. There's also the parent-student agreement. So you encourage parents and students to sign drug-free agreements, emphasizing their commitment to maintaining a drug-free lifestyle. And this can highly work if, when the students are coming to Form 1, they can sign these agreements. And the agreements should be there also together with the consequences, so that they're aware in case there's any drug use, what consequences are on the same issue. There is also alternative discipline approaches. So we consider restorative justice practices as an alternative traditional disciplinary measures for drug-related incidences. So these approaches focus on repairing harm and restoring relationships. So random drug testing should be done, and these implementing random drug testing for students involved in extracurricular activities or sports to deter drug use and provide an additional incentive for students to remain drug free, because most of the students, you'll find out, they like getting involved in activities, or sorry, most of the extracurricular activities. So if you start implementing the random drug testing, remember the random drug testing first has to go through the has to be allowed by the TSC before it is just being administered, because it can not just start like that, but it's going to go a long way. There's also youth leadership programs. So develop youth leadership programs that empower students to take an active role in promoting drug prevention within their school and community. So there's also after school programs, especially for those who are in day schools. So you provide a range of after school programs and activities that engage students and keep them occupied during vulnerable hours when drug use may occur. And these after school programs actually should be practiced when they should be called also holiday school programs. So when the students are on holiday, this is the time that they are very vulnerable for drug use. So if they are involved on programs or activities, or they are occupied, this makes sure that they don't use the drugs. There is also collaboration with the healthcare professionals. So partner with healthcare professionals and local clinics to offer workshops on the dangers of drug use and provide resources for students and parents seeking help. There should also be parenting workshops on risk factors. So, parenting workshops should be conducted on identifying these risk factors that may make their children uh, more prone to drug use, and also the strategies to address these factors. Especially in our country, we don't have these workshops. So these workshops should be conducted. They should be there and should be conducted. The ones that are being conducted mostly are in our prayer areas, but they should be all over, whereby the parents can easily access, and they should be free. Actually, even the government can support this, or any organization. Regular school surveys. So regular school surveys should be conducted, or there should be anonymous surveys among students to assess the drug use trends, and also to identify the potential areas for improvement in prevention efforts. Collaboration with substance abuse treatment centers. So the schools should partner with the local substance abuse treatment centers to provide resources and support for students who may need professional help. And the last point is public service announcements. So every country should create and disseminate powerful public service announcements on drug prevention through various media channels. Thank you for listening. Be blessed.